Hi everyone, and welcome back to SDI Coffee Break. And hopefully, if you saw the last one of these, we were officially introduced to Mauricio, who asked a series of random questions. One of which, Mauricio, was burger or taco?
That's a tough one. And it's not fair. You can't ask that to a Mexican. You just can't.
This is it. When I saw it, I thought, oh my God, that's been written for Mauricio. That's been written for Mauricio, you know? So I got more. I won't ask any more, though. Maybe next time.
Cool.
So yeah, it's a tough time, Mauricio, at the minute, isn't it? It's a very difficult time for all organisations, for across the globe, the economies across the globe as well, and obviously frontline staff on service desk too. Really tough times.
Yeah. It's a difficult time. Everybody, I think that right now it's a very specific. There are specific things going on around the globe, and I think that by the first time in the past recent years, the whole world are feeling exactly the same thing in one country or the other. It doesn't matter if it's in the rich countries or in the emerging countries. Everywhere we are just feeling exactly the same pain. So I think that yes, well, technology is gonna be one of the huge accelerators that every single country will need in order to move forward from this. It's not an easy, it's very difficult situation, and especially in emerging countries like Latin America, where we are working a lot with all of these kind of things of SDI and ITIL and that kind. What I am seeing is that, well, yes, we can feel that the northern countries has been hit very bad by this situation, but the worst is yet to come for the emerging countries, especially in Latin America, Africa, those kind of countries. If you are seeing the disease is just starting to kick up, so it's not going to be easy. But I think that this is why we need to stay calm, to start thinking, to develop the right strategies in order to move forward. And as you can see on every single newspaper right now, the type of organizations that are not struggling with this are the technology companies. Technological companies are just moving forward, and they're just selling and selling more and more stuff. And why is that? Because everybody is trying to switch just as quickly as that to home office and to do virtual stuff. So the industry will be really will be really very different. We are not going to get back to normal. Normality is not going to be the same one as we previously experienced that. So yeah, it's challenging times, David.
Yeah, and you know, funny enough, I mean, you know, I've been watching that sort of that technology thing unfold. And I think we'll come on to some of this as we go through these. But just today, I was reading that one organization, for example, Zoom, you know, in the last quarter, their user base grew from 10 million to 200 million in one quarter, which is extraordinary. So you're absolutely right. I think there are, and we'll come on to this, I think, but there are some parts of IT services, or what we call IT services, and that's either inside a business or as a service that are, you know, huge changes, huge upsides in what they're doing. What are your thoughts on that, Mauricio? What are you seeing right now in Latin America and in that region?
Yeah, well, you know, the main issue that we are having right now is that if you are used to on listening your politicians on rich countries, on northern countries, at least they have some kind of economic plans. It could be the right ones, the wrong ones, but at least you have one. On the emerging countries, you normally do not have that. Why is that? Because the main objective is surviving. That's it. And there is not going to be any kind of economic package in order to try to avoid that people will lose their jobs. So it's gonna be a tough time. It's gonna be a hard time. But I think that this is why we must focus on what can we do from my point of view, from my home, what can I start doing in order to move forward? These things has to happen. These things are going to what we need to move forward. That's the message. So it's going to be tough, yes, but this is why we have been working. I strongly believe in automation. I am a believer on on agility, and I strongly believe now more than ever that agility will be the new soul for successful companies in the near future. What are we seeing right now? We are seeing companies that are struggling considerably because they were not used to work at home, for example.
Yeah.
And I have been speaking with some people on the US that they used to work for local governments, and they say, hey, Mauricio, just to switch our operations, our service desk operations to home, it was a complete mess. It was very difficult. We were not ready about that. And, we normally used to think that every single organization is working on contingency plans and continuity plans and disaster recovery plans. But when we are arriving to these kind of situations on which everybody was surprised, we get to understand that we still need too many things to work on that. So that's why I strongly believe that yes, technology will help us to move forward. And artificial intelligence, robotic process automation, all of those kind of things, I strongly believe that are going to help the organizations to move forward. I was just reading the newspaper, U.S. newspaper yesterday. Almost 7 million people just signed papers for because they lose their jobs. Wow. So who is going to execute that jobs in the near future? I mean, of course, that as time will move forward, then they will get back to the workforce. But in the meantime, who is going to execute that job? Well, automation can do a lot of things over there. The main issue and the main challenge is that we are not agile enough. We do not have the agility, the skills in order to do that. So it's not going to be easy. That's a fact, and it's challenging times. But well, let's see how it goes.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think we mentioned on the last video the growth in certain services. So if I worked in unified comms right now, I think I'd be pretty busy, and I do know people who work in unified comms, and they are pretty busy. And the services that I'd be providing would be absolutely spot on for the right time. So I think there are some winners and some either some potential losers or already losers. We've already seen organizations go to the wall, haven't we? Especially if you look at the retail, face-to-face retail space, along with a number of other industries like hospitality and stuff like that. Huge swathes of change. And you mentioned agility as well and working from home. I think in the UK, we've seen some organizations very quickly, just through the having to work in a different way, sort of enable an organization to do that very quickly within a week, setting up VPN stuff and making sure that all the technology and the hardware was ready to make that happen, which has been incredible, absolutely incredible. From a Latin America perspective, how is that playing out there, Mauricio? What are you seeing in relation to how people are working? Any changes? Or is it pretty much the same because of
No. I think that we're struggling starting exactly in these days, these kind of days are where you are start thinking, oh my god, why didn't we work as a country on having a bigger telecommunications infrastructure? There have been some capacity issues, of course. I have been working with some guys at the government, and then they are trying to write some measures in order to suggest how can we get a much better efficiency on the demand on the networks and that kind of thing. So, of course, just by the fact on switching from your office to your home, there are several cultural issues that we need to address, and that has been quite a challenge. But the other challenge that we have, and it's much more tougher in emerging countries, is that we do not have exactly the same kind of infrastructure that rich countries has across across their territories. By saying that, I don't mean that, for example, in Mexico City, Guadalajara, Monterrey, for example, in Mexico, we don't have infrastructure. Of course, we have plenty of infrastructure. We are used to handle 25 million people in just one city. So the infrastructure is really, really robust. But what will happen when you go to the north or to the south on some specific towns or smaller cities, then, well, they are struggling even with infrastructure. So that's exactly the same. What I am seeing in Mexico is happening exactly the same in other countries. But we must consider that there are tiny countries that doesn't even have big cities, so they are not used to this kind of thing. So switching from home from office to home is a huge challenge. The other challenge that we need to address is how can we manage the demand management and the capacity management of our infrastructure. That's something big, and I know that we have very, very nice and very high skilled people doing that in the telecommunications area, and this is why Latin America we are handling we are just managing networks from, for example, the USA. So right now they are executing contingency plans right here in Mexico in order to support the telecommunications infrastructure in the USA. So we have plenty, very highly skilled people, but the infrastructure is not exactly enough. So we have additional challenges to the one that you are facing.
Yeah. Good. Well, I mean, that gives a flavour for some of the challenges there. And, you know, you touched on a few things there, like outsourcing. You know, and I think I've been reading recently about the challenges, what this means for countries where outsourcing is a key part of their economies, you know, as well, which is a challenge. So what we'll do, Mauricio, we'll close this video here, if that's okay, this session. And we'll maybe talk about the AI thing and what that means, innovation maybe as well, right? That Mexican innovation thing that you've been involved with. And we'll talk about that in the next video. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for the listeners for joining us as well. And we'll see you in the next video. Thank you.
Thank you.